Hi, I'm Neha Matthews, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. On Saturday, a car driving down from Shopian is intercepted in Kulgam district, ostensibly on the orders of the J&K police. According to them, the car was heading to Jammu. Inside the car is the Hizbul Mujahideen second in command, Sayyid Naveed Mushtaq or Naveed Babu, two associates, and this is the strange part, Deputy Superintendent of Jammu and Kashmir Police, Davinder Singh. Now, all of this information is released only a day later. The Inspector General of Police in J&K, Vijay Kumar, addresses a press conference, essentially saying that since Davinder Singh has been caught in such suspicious circumstances, ferrying militants, he's going to be treated like a militant. He and the others have been remanded, which by Tuesday has been arrested, and they are going to be interrogated by a slew of investigation agencies.
जो हमारे पुलिस अफसर है ये एंटी मिलिटेंसी ऑपरेशन में बहुत सारे काम किए हैं, लेकिन जो जिस हालत में कल पकड़ा गया, जो कि मिलिटेंट को अब गाड़ी में बैठा के ड्राइव करके जम्मू साइड जा रहा था, ये हीनियस क्राइम है। इसीलिए उसको हमने वही ट्रीट किया जो मिलिटेंट को करते हैं, प्रॉपर अरेस्ट किए, रिमांड पर लाए हैं, इंटरोगेशन चल रहा है और उसमें जो इन्वेस्टिगेशन में जो आएगा उसके हिसाब से कार्रवाई की जाएगी। क्योंकि अभी इनिशियल इन्वेस्टिगेशन है, इसलिए मैं अभी ज़्यादा नहीं कर सकता हूँ।
Select few news publications start speculating wildly. Why is a decorated police officer traveling with two militants? And what was their plan? On our first segment, we look at the strange case of Davinder Singh. Deputy Editor Muzammil Jalil joins us to explain who Davinder Singh is, his links to the Afzal Guru case, and he elaborates on several unanswered questions about this incident.
Davinder Singh's name came first. The first ever controversy that he was involved in was after 2001 Parliament attack. Afzal Guru, who was later convicted and hanged, he wrote a letter to his lawyer. In fact, he has been talking about it in those years, saying that it was Davinder Singh, who was DSP those days of a special operations group camp in Humhama, which is in the outskirts of Srinagar city, that he forced him to be part of their network, and he made him to take a Pakistani national and a militant, Muhammad, from Kashmir to Delhi, help him rent an apartment there and do other things for him. And Muhammad was the main militant who was involved in Parliament attack.
The 2001 Parliament attack saw militants from Pakistan-based terror groups enter the parliament while there are still ministers inside and start shooting, eventually leading to the deaths of the 5 terrorists, 6 Delhi police personnel, 2 Parliament Security Service personnel, and a gardener. Not only did this incident lead to a military standoff between India and Pakistan in 2001 and 2002, but it also led to the arrest of 4 individuals who were tracked down with the help of leads related to car used and cell phone records. One of these individuals, Afzal Guru, was awarded a death sentence and eventually he was hanged in February 2013.
So it was huge. The allegation was huge. And at that point of time, I don't think government carried out any investigation publicly. And Davinder Singh was absolved of all those allegations. And I don't think there was ever a proper investigation against Davinder Singh. That is 2001. After that, I think that the government posted him in traffic police. He was in traffic police for a long time. And within the J&K police, people would say that he's being compensated for his work because there is money in traffic police. So recently, he was posted in Pulwama. He was DSP DR there. And he was posted out. And once he, returned, he was posted at the airport. He was part of the anti-hijacking unit of J&K police.
The Afzal Guru link in hindsight should have been incriminating evidence that warranted a proper investigation.
What happened is that Afzal in his letter gave a story, he spoke about it in detail, that, he had become a militant. He was a medical college student. He had become a militant afterwards. He returned back. He was part of JKLF. And once he returned back, he didn't want to continue to be a militant. And, there was also talk that he had surrendered his weapon. In that letter that he wrote from jail, from Tihar, to his lawyer, Sushil Kumar, he actually talks about what happened to him. He talks about how he was arrested by Special Operations Group in Patan Palhalan, which is on the Srinagar-Baramulla highway, Srinagar-Sopore, Srinagar-Baramulla. And because he was from this village called Dobgaon, very close to Sopore, so he used to use this road. So he was picked up, he was tortured there, he talks about it. And then he was shifted to Special Operations Group in Humhama, where Davinder Singh tortured him. There was another police officer called Shanti Singh. He also tortured him. And he says that how they asked for money. This is from the letter. His wife sold jewelry and he had a scooter. He sold their scooter and he could manage 1 lakh rupee and gave it to them. Then he says that in the process, there was a senior superintendent of police at that point of time. His name is Ashok Hussain Bukhari. In the letter, Afzal says that it was Ashok Hussain who took him to Davinder Singh, where Davinder Singh said that, you need to do this small piece of work for us. You need to take this guy, Muhammad, to Delhi and help him to rent a place and, get a car. And Afzal in the letters also talks about that Davinder Singh gave him 35,000 rupees for that at that point of time. So if that letter was investigated, or if the contents of the letter were true, the entire nature of the case would have changed. I don't think it would have only changed the nature of that case. It would have changed a lot of other things also. Parliament attack changed this country and changed the relationship in this entire, subcontinent. And I think that if it was properly investigated and if the probe would have found out Afzal's story to be true, it would have changed everything. But nobody touched Davinder Singh at that point of time.
While Davinder Singh was a decorated officer in Jammu and Kashmir, the Afzal Guru link was not the only controversy that followed him.
His name has come up scores of times. There is one more case against him, which was of a custodial killing of a class 12 student from Mandir Bagh in Srinagar. And the human rights group in Kashmir has documented that case. I don't think that was also investigated. And that's around the same time. That's around 2000, perhaps, if I'm correct. He was those days also DSP Special Operations Group in Humhama.
So the way these controversies around Davinder Singh, the custodial death, the link to Afzal Guru, all seem to go away without investigation, it's all suspicious. The manner in which he was caught, ferrying militants for what officials claim was a sum of 12 lakhs, throws up some questions as well.
There are operations that are not on book. They're always there. I have certain questions about this entire operation, and whatever experience I have, I do not buy the police story at this point of time. I think there are lots of holes in that story. It is highly unlikely that a DSP of 20 years, Davinder Singh, who has been involved in things which are much bigger and had access to money also, because there's a lot of reward money, there's like other opportunities also, that he would choose this dangerous means to do corruption. It's highly unlikely. He would not also be like, it is not change of heart that he's feeling that he sports the militant ideology. That's also not there. So police is not saying that also. So for 12 lakh rupees, I do not think that a police officer who has been in thick of things for so long would risk his everything. We know he's rich also. He has 2-3 houses. He has managed quite well for himself all these years. Why would a DSP join militants in this way, that he keeps these militants at his home, he keeps their arms at his home, he ferries them from place to place in his own car for 12 lakh rupees or 13 lakh rupees. We are not talking about some ordinary militants. The main militant in this group was Naveed Babu, and Naveed Babu himself had been a policeman. He has been a constable. So he switched sides and became a militant. And in the last 1-2 years, he had also risen within the ranks of the militant organization and was almost at number 2 now. He was also he was most wanted because the police was convinced that he was involved in killing those non-local laborers and also truck drivers. So to take such a wanted militant in his car and go from place to place, and it's like highly unlikely, number one. Number two, where was he taking them? If he had to make them surrender, or he could have done that in Srinagar also. Why was he going towards Jammu? What was the purpose? Number two. Number three, the police has also, this whole argument, this picture is being created that this guy is a bad apple, and he has done something wrong, so we will treat him like a militant, and this is the lone wolf story. And he was working for the militants. I think whatever I see, whatever information we have in public domain till now, it looks other way around. It looks that the militants were working for him.
Are you saying there's a much bigger story than what we are currently hearing?
I think that, of course, there's a much bigger story. Of course, it's a much bigger story. He was being tracked. It won't take 1 or 2 days to track this type of a case. So they must have been tracking him. And, a week ago, he was part of the team which welcomed all the dignitaries who had come from outside, including US ambassador in India and other, ambassadors who had come for a tour to Kashmir. You can see that picture. He's there. He's standing there. So what is the truth? We do not know. Nobody is buying this. Even I speak to police officers within police force. They are also asking the same question, that how did this happen? The bigger question is that, for example, why did police arrest him? Other question is also, for example, if he was doing covert operation, if he was, if it was a operation which was a black operation, he was taking these militants to somewhere, why would he be? So there are lots of questions. It's like there are no answers. There are only questions.
All of the speculation just leads us back to the original question. What is the bigger story at play?
He was in the thick of things. He was part of a lot of operations in the last 20 years. He did not become this so-called bad apple overnight.
Not so easily.
So, whatever information is there, people are alleging that he, of course, was part of, it was a covert operation, but these people were being taken for a false flag operation. False flag operation is like a fake attack, which the aim is something else. So, whatever you see, if you look at it very carefully, for example, tomorrow, if Naveed Babu was involved in an attack in Delhi or Bombay, anywhere, no one would have questioned the authenticity of the attack because he had been part of the militant group for a long time now, and he had risen to this level. So who was handling Davinder Singh? Who are his handlers? Who was controlling this entire thing? Until that is known, I don't think, we would know the truth.
In the next segment, we discuss the bushfires raging across Australia and an Indian link that has been drawn. Since September, bushfires across Australia have led to an unprecedented level of damage. The death toll in one of the worst wildfires is currently at least 28 people, including firefighters and volunteers killed, more than 3,000 homes damaged or destroyed, over 500 million animals, many species which are only native to Australia, have been affected, with likely millions dead. And according to CNN, more than 7.3 million hectares have been burned. As the fires rage on, thousands of Australians have come out to protest their government's inaction, particularly its stance on climate change and coal mining.
We're here today to demand the sacking of Scott Morrison!
Here's the India link. On Saturday, 17-year-old environment activist Greta Thunberg tweeted urging the company Siemens to stop, delay, or interrupt the building of the large Adani coal mine in Australia. On this segment, we look at that coal mine project. Pune Bureau Head Amitabh Sinha, who covers environment and science for the Indian Express, joins us to explain why coal mining has been referenced during the bushfires and how this particular project has previously attracted controversy. First, if bushfires in Australia are so common, why has the link to climate change and coal been drawn?
Coal mining, as we all know, is a pollution-intensive industry. Coal mining activity itself, and apart from the further uses of coal, when coal is dug out and it's taken for producing power, all these processes, they release a lot of carbon in the atmosphere. So all those processes, they the process of digging out coal from earth, that process itself contributes to a lot of carbon being emitted in the atmosphere. Then all the further uses of coal, including the biggest use in power industry of producing electricity, that also emits a lot of carbon emissions. So what happens is the more emissions, the more there's likelihood of CO2 being added into the atmosphere. We know that is one of the main causes of climate change. And the bushfires that we are seeing in Australia during their summer period, this is their summer. So it's pretty common in Australia at this point of time. But this year, the intensity and the ferocity of bushfires has been much, much greater than what is normally seen every year. And this scientists are attributing it to climate change, right? There is very strong evidence, and it has been predicted earlier as well, that these are the kind of bushfires that we'll see in future if we don't fight effectively against climate change.
It's important to know at this point that coal is a very, very important industry in Australia. Australia has been the leading coal exporter in the whole world.
It employs a lot of people. Australia doesn't need coal for itself. Most of its coal is exported to other countries, mostly to countries in Asia, and India and China being some of the biggest importers of coal from Australia. Australian coal is a relatively good quality coal compared to what we find in India, at least. Right? So they export most of their coal. Their own usage is not more than about 20 to 30% of the coal that they produce. Most of it is exported to other countries, but it does bring them important foreign exchange, and it also provides employment to their people. So some estimates say there are already about 50,000 people employed directly in the coal industry.
So how does this Adani Carmichael coal mine project, set to be the biggest in Australia, figure into the picture?
It's supposed to be one of the largest in the world, but certainly the largest one in Australia. So it's big. Now, the thing is, it's facing protests right from the very inception. So one of the reasons that there are people who are principally against coal mining now, because coal mining is a dirty activity. It adds to the carbon emissions, right? So a lot of people, and in any case, world over, coal mining is an activity that is being strongly discouraged, and people are switching to different modes of producing electricity, not from coal but from renewables, increasingly. So coal mining is an activity that is seen down upon in these times of climate change, and therefore it's strongly discouraged. And this particular mine has faced protests right from its inception, somewhere around 2009 and 10. And one of the strongest opposition for this was of the threat that is perceived to be Great Barrier Reef in Australia, which is a UNESCO protected site, so which is very close there. So because this particular coal mine is actually situated in the center of Queensland, the coal has to be transported to the port. For that, new railway line has to be built. Right. So all this thing is supposed to be harmful, not just to the local biodiversity and the forests around that place, but also to the coral reef, the Great Barrier Reef, which is a world famous site. So because of that, there has always been a very strong resistance to this project. And globally, there have been protests not to let this project go ahead. But only last year, the Queensland government, the provincial government, and also the Australian federal government, they decided to go ahead with the project. They gave the final approval to the project, subject to certain conditions, as is always the case with these kind of projects.
Another aspect of this is that Thunberg had appealed to Siemens, which on Monday announced that they will be going ahead with their project with the coal mine, and that while they had empathy for environmental matters, they had the interests of multiple stakeholders to keep in mind. But why was Thunberg appealing to Siemens in the first place?
Siemens, which is a German company, now Siemens has got a contract to do a part of the railway link, the railway infrastructure that is supposed to be built. At least a part of it is being built by Siemens of Germany. So there were protests that were happening in Germany itself and other parts of in Australia as well. They were urging Siemens to withdraw from this project. And yesterday, so Siemens has announced that, yes, it does understand the environmental concerns and it does understand everyone's concerns on this, but it will go ahead with the project and fulfill its contractual obligations. And it said it will definitely attempt to minimize the environmental damage that would be caused, but it will go ahead with the project. So that is something that is riling the activists right now, because they were hoping that Siemens will pull out from this project. It won't mean the death for this coal mining project, but it would probably delay it a little bit. It will probably escalate the costs, and they were hoping that it will make it not so profitable for Adani.
During the bail plea hearing of Chandrashekhar Azad at Delhi's Tisasari court, Additional Sessions Judge Kamini Lau on Tuesday came down heavily on the Delhi police, saying that the Bhim army chief has a constitutional right to protest. Azad has been in jail since December 21st in connection with protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act in Old Delhi's Daryaganj area. Azad's outfit had organized a march from Jama Masjid to Jantar Mantar against the act on December 20th without police permission. Judge Lau said, "You are behaving as if Jama Masjid is Pakistan. Even if it was Pakistan, you can go there and protest. Pakistan was a part of undivided India." She stressed that citizens have a right to protest. Now, when the prosecutor mentioned that prior permission for the protest was needed, Judge Lau countered it, saying that the Supreme Court has repeatedly said that the use of Section 144 is an abuse. The judge added that she had seen many people who had protested outside Parliament who later went on to become leaders and ministers. She also said that things which should have been said in Parliament were not said, which is why people are out on the streets. You can read the rest of this piece by Anand Mohan J on IndianExpress.com. You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show, as always, was edited and mixed by our producer, Joshua Thomas. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.